I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we'll call this Petersburg Common Council meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda this evening would be the approval of the minutes from the June 16th meeting. If you've had a chance to take a look at those.
I approve those minutes.
We have a motion from Jody to approve the minutes as presented. Could we have a second? Second by Scott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Okay. Now the first thing we're going to do this evening under old business, we are going to suspend this meeting and conduct a public hearing. So I would entertain a motion to suspend the council meeting at this time. Would somebody like to make
Make a
that?
motion to suspend the regular council meeting.
We have a motion from
And open
John
Public meeting.
to suspend the meeting. Could I have a second?
Second.
Second from Colin. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to conduct a public hearing, and as you know, this is pertaining to the request that we have, the petition, I guess, we would have from Steve Evans to close the alley. We've discussed earlier. It's been advertised in the paper. The hearing has been advertised as well, and are there any questions about that? I don't see any members from the public here with any concern. So anybody here have any issues or questions? We've talked about this.
I'm done.
Okay, so I think that being the case, I would entertain a motion to close the public hearing. If somebody'd like to make that in the form of a motion.
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
We have a-
Open the, council meeting.
We have a motion from John to close the public hearing. Could I have a second? Second by Scott. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we will now reconvene our regular council meeting and address the ordinance of the city council to vacate this alley. Okay, so Cullen, do you have that in front of you? This would be ordinance 2525-5.
Mr. Mayor, I move an ordinance entitled 2025-5 be numbered and placed on the first reading, and that the same be read by title at this time.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Show of hands, all that approve. Motion is carried.
City of Petersburg ordinance 2025-5, an ordinance of the City Council of Petersburg, Indiana, vacating a portion of a public street.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance 2025-5 be read a second time by title, and that an opportunity be given for the offering of the amendments.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Show of hands, all that would approve.
City of Petersburg ordinance 2025-5, an ordinance of the City Council of Petersburg, Indiana, vacating a portion of a public street.
First call for amendments. Second call for amendments. Third call for amendments.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the rules be suspended and that the consent be given for the adoption of ordinance 2025-5 at this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Show of hands, all that approve, and it is unanimous.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance 2025-5 be read a third time by title and placed on final passage.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by John. Show of hands, at all that approve.
City of Petersburg ordinance 2025-5, an ordinance of the City Council of Petersburg, Indiana, vacating a portion of a public street.
This ordinance is under consideration for final passage or rejection. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll?
Millhiser.
Yes.
Jenkins.
Yes.
Cook.
Yes.
And Hoover.
Yes.
I declare that this ordinance has duly passed and is adopted. Thank you very much. We just closed an alley.
And a few of them.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, I thought at this time, I had listed on the agenda, at the last meeting, we had a discussion about the one-way street on Goodlet. I think you probably had an opportunity to take a look at that, maybe, I would hope. I know I've been up there a number of times. Let's see, we need to have,
Cullen's, this just has the council president signs it.
okay, that's on this
And the
particular.
presiding officer, yeah, so
Okay.
you've got three.
Okay, yeah, here are the three, so we can have Cohen sign those.
Yeah.
He's the only one that signs that, okay. And then I'll sign the other one. But I thought we might discuss
He's
that.
the only one that signed it, that's how they fixed it.
So if there's, I thought we might, I didn't know if our if Mr. Sparks may be with us this evening or not, but I think we could discuss this a little bit. I know we've probably all had an opportunity to look at it. The interesting thing, and I remember this, Chuck was the chief at the time. Kyle, you probably remember this too, that it was always was a two-way street, and it was his idea to double that up for the school drop-off and the school pickup. That's how that happened. It was always a two-way street. And because people were backing up out onto 61 at the time, if you remember, that was the chief's suggestion to double stack that, to try to alleviate some of that problem. And honestly, a lot of that was from the safety perspective, for fear that people were literally out in 61. That's how, just to bring you up on the history, that's how that all came about. It was always a two-way street. But this was an attempt to try to make that safer, and that, just so you know the history. And I know now that he brought it up at our last meeting, and we got a chance to look at it. I was not aware that people were cutting through from 356, but you know how that is. People are gonna go, you can't imagine what they're gonna do. So, anyway, that was a little bit of the history, and I understand what he was saying. It does make a lot of sense in that that's just for a few minutes a day. But
I have a question.
yeah,
One block of that is two-way, coming out of the school to.
up to, would be 10th Street.
10th.
Yes, if you were exiting that way, that's
I mean,
right.
if we could do it. I guess the reason we didn't make that a one-way also is because of his driveway. Is that correct?
I can't remember exactly, but that would have been a consideration, because he does have a driveway that goes
He
in
has a
there.
driveway.
Right, and people could exit that way, and as long as they come to 10th, they could go, actually, if you remember, they go either way.
Honestly, I think we ought to just make it a one-way all the way to the school. But I don't think we can, because his driveway is on that block.
That's interesting.
So,
Yeah,
my thoughts are, this has been addressed by, you've looked at it also, it's the best we can do, right?
In my opinion, yes.
And it was Chuck, so we had.
that was the reason we did that, that's right.
correct.
That's right.
Okay, so law enforcement has looked at it and said, this is the best we can do under the circumstances. I don't know that there's anything else we can do, other than maybe address the Pike County School Board.
Well, now, if Ross was here, he would tell you this. I absolutely agree with this. Kyle and I met with the superintendent about this a year ago? A couple years ago. Because it would appear there's plenty of room in that parking lot. If it was a little more structured or organized as to where people park. Because really what we've done is make 2 lanes basically on a couple blocks. And if you would get the car count, I don't know how many that would be, maybe a dozen or so, during those few minutes a day. But if you look at the parking lot, there's certainly enough room. If they would just continue to pull up on there, it wouldn't be an issue. But there's now, because we've created this situation, that's what they're accustomed to. Double stacking for drop-off. So, but
But you're saying the superintendent wasn't interested
they,
in.
no, changing anything.
Okay,
Yeah.
then the only other thing.
Now, Ross did, what I started to say was, that was a couple years ago. After our last meeting, Ross met with the person responsible for transportation up there now, and went and looked at it and suggested, and he seemed to think, well, that makes sense. If, you know, maybe none of that double stacking is necessary, if it was single like it always was, and people wouldn't stop there, because they're basically violating a city ordinance because you're blocking a street. We have an ordinance that says you cannot block a street, alley, or sidewalk. But a few minutes of the day, we allow people to do that. It's kind of what he was saying, which was true. Whereas, like at Pike Central, they don't pull out on the highway and park. They get on private parking from the school. There would appear there's that much room there, but people now are accustomed to double stacking. So they either need to flow through there and not stop and leave the street open, and then it doesn't matter one way, two way, whatever it is, we're having people block a street for a few minutes every day. And that was a suggestion of the chief. That's how and why that happened. Now, and when we brought this up before with the school, they weren't very interested in changing anything. So back to what you're saying, John, if that's the case, and we're going to continue to allow people to double park in the street, that's about all we can do.
It'd make more sense for them to double stack in the school parking lot than it would on City Street.
Then a public street, absolutely, that's the whole issue, right?
I don't know why the
They
school
could have
wouldn't
2
wanna do
lanes
that.
going into the back.
I think it's such a low priority for them. And we all know it's a shame there's not this big parking lot behind the school, because when they have their various activities, you know, there's no parking anyway. But I'm sure financially that would be a real burden for them to consider something like that, so that's not gonna happen. But our point was, if you go look how many rows of parking there actually is on that lot, there's enough for those, and there's another lot in the rear for, I think there were 26 spots, didn't we count that? There's spots there, there's spots by the door, and then there's more than double lanes on the school property, and then the street wouldn't be an issue at all. But now we've created a situation which has helped. The intent was to keep people off 61, so they double stack in there a few minutes a day. Now, it works. It really probably should be a four-way stop. When I was up there one day, you see the kids playing in there, you know, it's not a four-way stop.
I agree with that.
That should probably be a four-way stop instead of whatever it is, because you see kids up there in the summer flying by like he was saying. But I don't know the answer.
We can address the four-way stop, but until the school corporation or the transportation director is willing to help us alleviate this problem, the police department has determined this is the best way for the safety of everybody, and I don't think there's anything else that we can do.
Well, if that is true.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the opinion, that's why it was done 5 or 6 years ago, how long it's been a while, to see if it would help. It has probably helped off Goodlet. So are you still on the opinion that that's the best for the police department?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the problem that the school's pushing out on our city street, this is the safest thing we could come up with, and I agree that it's the safest thing we can do. As far as protecting pedestrian traffic and keeping vehicles off of 61.
I mean, that's.
But I do agree with John that, I mean, the complaints we're getting from the residents of people violating the one-way, I think if it was a one-way all the way up, it would probably reduce people violating that law, because it's not as confusing where you're going halfway down this block and then it turns into a one-way. It'd be the whole street basically from
Right.
where the school property starts to 61, and, you know, it wouldn't be as confusing.
You don't think we can do that due to his driveway?
I think you can, because I've seen a lot of one-ways where, you know, it's a one-way all the way down city blocks, and, you know, there's driveways there, but they have to go down that one way to get to their driveway.
So if that was
You
one,
have to come in a different direction.
Right.
if that was one way all the way to the elementary school, and nobody's supposed to come out, you know they're going to, but okay, let's just say they didn't, then that means whenever he leaves his driveway, he has to go across the school.
Mhm.
That's no good either. That won't work.
It would alleviate the traffic coming from 356.
Yes.
Yes.
You know, coming this direction, because you can't turn
No.
nowhere.
But see, once
So
again, that's
you couldn't do
private,
that.
that's private school property.
Yeah, so that's.
A gate would
okay.
accomplish the same thing, but
Yeah.
they don't do that either. So there's not.
Okay, so that one block is two-way. Could we make it a do not enter? Coming towards 61? It's,
Now, we have do not enter from 10th on Goodlet now,
I'm talking about from the school.
all the way from the school.
Yeah,
Go
it's
up
just
there.
one block.
I mean, put it up at the school, do not enter.
Yeah, do not enter.
We have to look at that, see.
That would be,
The only person that would, you know, help would be Thomas, if you didn't have it
Well,
one way all
Thomas-
the way up.
Thomas
it's a-
could use it.
Yeah,
Yeah, you-
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That would
It's just a
benefit
do
him.
not enter from.
From the school, from what we would consider the parking lot.
The school parking lot,
Right.
that's correct.
Put do not enter signs
Do
there.
not enter there.
Well, people are gonna do it
Still
anyway,
make it, yeah.
but it's the same thing, but it's an attempt.
I mean, it's,
That's interesting.
Could we not touch base with the school again and see if they're willing to?
Well, Ross did right after our meeting, and I haven't heard a word, I wish he was here to tell us, but I don't know if he's heard anything or not, but he spoke with them about it. If they would do that, it'd solve all the problems.
Yeah, yeah.
It's really a school-related problem that we're dealing with a public street,
for public safety.
for public safety, and that's all our concern is, really.
I'd like
That's an
to
interesting-
file to see if we can legally, or.
Yeah.
if
You couldn't ticket for it if it's a two-way street, is that what you're saying? It's still a two-way street, you just put do not enter
Right.
by this.
Right.
I don't know, it's
Great.
You know, it is correct when you say that it is really a strange situation now.
Well, we're doing it for the resident, we're doing it for the safety
Yeah.
of the,
Right.
You just couldn't ticket because that is technically still a two-way.
Okay, I see what you mean. You just put do not enter sign. Like right now, we have the do not enter signs
But
on,
you can ticket it if they continue on.
they're at 10th Street right now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Do not enter. So what you're considering is moving those from 10th Street over to
I think
back.
you keep them both.
Yeah.
to the school property.
Okay.
So they cannot enter off of school property.
Where are they gonna go?
Yeah, that's the thing, there, it'd be just like it was a one-way.
Well, they can go on around and out the next street up.
Well, let's take a look at that. I mean, we don't have to do anything, really, as far as that goes. I just wanted to have this discussion because, you know, he approached us and made this request, and a lot of which did make sense, and then it's just a few minutes a day, every day, you know, does it happen that, it's not happening right now, you know, it's been people who just go through there all the time, and it's a little odd. It's a very odd arrangement, because we are taking a public street as basically an entrance to the school. There's the problem. But let's take a look at that. In other words, John, are you suggesting, make sure I'm clear now, are we still one-way? Are we two-way?
It's a
What are we changing
Well, it would,
or proposing?
well,
Do not enter at that school at
I would
that,
just, yeah, because the resident's gonna wanna turn left out of that driveway.
sure,
So, rather than disrupt the way he has been coming in and out,
sure,
we put a do not enter
Pass
from
it.
the school property
past his driveway.
on your right.
Right,
And they would just have to go around this little circle there to the next exit. There's one more exit there.
okay, but my question was, is Goodlet one-way or two? Right now, Goodlet is supposed to be one-way, right? From 61 in.
61 to 10th.
Tenant, yes.
61 to 10th,
Right.
does that remain one-way, or?
Yeah, I mean, it would remain one way, 61 to 10, right?
Correct.
Unless
Correct.
the school alleviates the problem, I say we have to keep that at one way
That's
from
right.
61 to 10.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Okay,
We're just not gonna allow traffic to exit the school parking lot on Goodland.
But do a lot of them do that now? Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
is
I
that
bet they
probably
do.
the main exit?
No, I mean, it's,
There he is.
Just,
I'd say both the
There's
streets
Lane.
there, both the
Okay.
city streets are.
welcome.
Good evening.
Have a seat.
Okay.
We are discussing the situation at Goodlet in the elementary school, and I mentioned that you talked to the transportation director right after our last meeting. Have you heard any more about that after that discussion? As to any ideas on the school side?
He called me back, and it didn't sound too promising.
That's been our experience before.
But he did, him himself agreed, I met him up there at the parking lot, and he agreed that would be the right thing to do.
Sure. There's adequate room.
Yeah. He felt like he could even make 3 rows across the backside of the parking lot if you wanted to.
I think you could too. Now, here again though, how you gonna direct that traffic
Well,
to
that's
do
the
that?
thing, I mean, I talked with you about it, I talked with Ross about it, if they were to give us the go ahead to make that a 2-lane, I have no problem sending officers up there to coordinate that, to get people used to using that as a 2 or 3 lane. I mean, once people start using it, then, you know, you're a month into it, we won't have to be up there, but
Once they get used to it, right?
I would have no problem making sure, you know, everybody stays safe and we, you know, try to cut down on accidents by having people merge there
Yeah.
into that gate, but we would absolutely do it.
And to that, Kyle, I didn't share that with him on the first conversation because I didn't want to get that deep into it right
Sure.
then. And I didn't want to commit you something that maybe you really didn't want to do.
No, I mean,
You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah.
And so, anyway, maybe if they knew that piece, maybe that would help, I don't know. I can share that, I'd be glad to share it if that's what you want me to do.
Well, changing things back and forth gets very confusing. Because we did that 5 or 6 years ago, and we've tried it this way for a while. You hope that you could figure a solution to this without having to flip-flop and keep it as simple as we possibly can. But it's a challenge. And we don't have to take action on it this evening. I just wanted to get everybody's thoughts on it because it was brought to our attention, and I said we would consider, we'd look at it, everybody's looked at it. That's something to consider, but it looks to me like you're impacting the exit from the school when you do that. If people would really follow that, and then you tell them they can't exit that way, now they have no choice but to go out the Alford Road, right?
No, there's one more exit, I think.
Oh, up on, that's right,
Yeah.
that's right.
There's one more.
That street is,
McCoy.
McCoy, is that what that is?
So you'd have,
That's where the buses go.
Yep.
so you'd have them coming in one way and exited another.
Yes, that's right. Okay, well,
And we can make that, would be feasible to make the exit a one way. Where,
people wouldn't be coming in that way.
well, they can merge, yeah, and
Yeah.
they can merge two vehicles going out at the same time.
Yeah. Everybody comes in one way and they go out that way.
Yeah.
Well, like I said, let's just,
If the corporation isn't gonna allow them to double park on their property to pick up kids, and that's what we're talking about, we're correct, okay?
Pretty much so.
Okay,
Yes.
so if they're not gonna allow that, that's
Well-
something we could do,
Yeah.
but it's still,
I don't see them not allowing it. I don't think the school corporation would particularly care where the people are parked, because it's a parking lot. It's what's happening, people aren't going onto the parking lot. It's open every day, but they're accustomed to stopping out on the street instead of going into the parking lot. There's room in the parking lot.
Why don't they go into the parking lot?
They stop, I don't know.
Well, they make a long line. They
It's just a
start- they
single
start
file
in the back.
thing through the
Yes,
parking
it's
lot.
single
It's
file.
Oh, instead of, no,
They go
it's just
back.
saying, okay.
I mean, they have room, like Ross was saying, there's room to pull in and go double lane on their parking lot and possibly 3 lanes on there. There's room for these cars, there really is.
so we really just need to direct the public on how to pull in there.
That's about the truth, John. I think you're about right. They're accustomed to parking out on Goodlet instead of, yes,
Send one of your officers up there
Well,
for,
the only issue is that back parking lot, some people do park back there every once in a while, and that would disrupt
Yeah.
double lane
Yeah,
back.
so they
you
would
see
have
what I
to-
mean? You could park back there and then it interrupts with that, but
But if us and the school corporation could coordinate together and just basically make that back parking lot no parking, everybody parks in the front part of it, then, you could double lane that. or triple lane.
there's plenty of room, John. It's just about, you know how they just, people park, are accustomed to parking wherever they want to. If they would all move forward, there's room for every bit of this on that parking lot. There really is. Now, how we get from here to there, I don't know. Huh. But I did notice the day I was up there, that probably could be a 4-way stop for kids on bicycles anyway, so that's something to look at.
Well, I-
Take a look at it again and see what you think
yeah,
about that.
I'll just go talk to the transportation director and see if you can't somehow get them to funnel the vehicles all the way on, up into the parking lot.
Yeah, see, these are, for the most part, I would say, Ross, correct me if I'm wrong, the people parking there are school employees, whatever level.
To my knowledge,
Teachers, school employees,
Yeah.
and if they would move up and leave
not very
room
many of them.
for the public to get behind there, there's plenty of room.
I'd still put a sign that says, do not enter that one block on Goodlet, from the school to the 10th.
Let's take a look at that. I hadn't looked at it, see what impact that would have,
I have to think about
because I think people are gonna do it anyway. If they're doing it now,
They're doing it
they're
now,
running
yeah.
right through it anyway, right, yeah.
Would it slow it down? I don't know.
I don't know either.
I think we need to coordinate with the transportation director.
The key to this is the school corporation. Because we are encouraging and allowing people to block a public street. Is that not a fair statement? That's what's happening.
In the name of public safety.
Yeah, in the name
There
of
you
public
go.
safety,
Yes,
that's
yeah,
exactly right.
That's correct.
That's how that came about. Okay, let's continue to look at this. Do you want to talk to him again, Ross, and see if he...
Sure, I'll be glad to talk to him again.
Yeah, and we could talk to the superintendent
If he
again.
wants to sit down and talk with both of us, and maybe we
Yeah,
can come up with
that's-
something, I'd be more than happy to.
Yeah, I'll probably set something like that.
We're just trying to come up with a better, simple solution for everybody. And public safety being the #1 concern, as well as the residents in the neighborhood. Surely we can figure this out, but it's gonna take cooperation of everybody, us and the school corporation. And we're willing to do that, of course.
Or make that a total one-way in,
Maybe.
and the next street up, or
total one-way out. Maybe that's the
And there's
solution.
a two-lane
That would
out.
actually probably help the buses, because I know I've watched, people pull up to go up to the school, and the buses are coming down, and,
Mhm.
everybody has to get over, and there's actually been a bus hung up there before, where they got off and it was
Mhm.
wet, so.
So on that exit, so that was gonna be my question. What impact does that have to the normal the bus traffic cross? If they all exit up there, don't
And
they?
we need to have him in on that conversation.
So that's somebody else that gets involved, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, that's good. That's why I put it on here this evening to discuss it a little more, see if we can get some ideas to try to help if we can. Okay, I know what I needed to do. We need to certify the property on 1602 East Main Street. This is just part of the process, you'll see the expense associated with that. Brian, have you seen this? Might send one down to Brian, just so you have one. And we will be invoicing the property owner, you see on the invoice. They certify those costs before we
Yes.
send the invoice to the landowner.
Yes.
Okay, that's what this is about. So that job is finished, and like invoice prepared yet, we're still working on that one. But this was the demolition of that house. So we can invoice the landowner, so. At this time, I would entertain a motion to certify the cost for the cleanup on the property of 1602 East Main Street in Petersburg. If somebody would like to make that in form of a motion.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion from McCullum, could I have a second?
A second.
Second by Jody, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll get this done, and then we just send this to the landowner, correct, Brian? That's the next,
Yes.
okay. So, I don't think we have any patron concerns. How about board member concerns this evening? Let's see.
Thank you for getting that, it's there on,
Oh, yes.
Mulberry.
We
And
got
that
the
water
one,
leak.
we got the one on Mulberry, and we got bit, I intended to go on the other one there on Cherries this afternoon. We picked up some other little things that kind of interrupted our afternoon, but anyway, we're gonna try to get up there and cut that one open, see what we can do with that. And then I got another report of one over on Eighth and Cherry, and then I've got one down on Eighth and Cedar now, so.
So the good news is on the one Jody's referring to, it wasn't as bad as we thought it was.
That was on Mulberry, and that
That was solid under there. You didn't know.
yeah, I think from that previous water leak, there probably been more erosion back under that pavement than what we really got material pushed into to hold the pavement, back under the pavement, so I really think that was probably the cause of it.
What was that water leak on, Poplar?
Service line to the residents, and I can't even think of the address right now.
Across the street?
Right across the street
Across the
from it,
street?
yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, Ross, in previous meeting, John asked a question about the neighbors down on Sixth Street, kind of an update, what's going on down there. I told him you were back down there today, and any information on?
Well, we were down there today and put the sleeve on and the valve for the hot tap on the 4-inch down at McCoy that's gonna feed that line. That contractor's supposed to be here at the end of the week, Thursday, Friday window, to do that tap for us. And right after that, we'll get that main connected. We've already got stuff in it so we can get it sanitized, so we'll try to get it sanitized and get it tested, make sure it's safe, and then we'll go to work moving people to it right after that. So that's kind of where that's at. So, probably everything goes right. I don't know that we'll get back to hooking anybody to it next week, but possibly for sure the week after.
I was telling him, hopefully, I know your goal was to get it done by end of the month.
We've got the main's completed, except down there where the hot tap's at, that end, it's all completed, the fire hydrant's in on the end of it, so it's ready to go. And we have 4 of the road crossings done, we've got 4 more to do. So, I feel pretty good about it, really. So, it'll take us a little while to move everybody to the new line, but it won't take us all that long years.
If any of the neighbors are around, just ask them.
Did you see that? Did you see that?
We've got a project with the sewer for the new insurance office, so we'll have to kind of jump back and forth between those two projects a little bit, but anyway, just to keep them both moving, so.
Okay.